You look radiating today. 1 second, 15. You inspire the people around you. 2 second, 14. You make the world a better place. 2 second, 32. See? It only takes a couple seconds to spread positivity every day. You may or may not realize this, but compliments are so important, not only to the people you direct them to, but also to yourself and the greater community around you. I know this because I, like everyone else, struggled with confidence when I was in middle school. I was a little rounder than I was supposed to be, a little more awkward than I was supposed to act. Anyway, back in middle school, I took drama class. And one day before class, I decided to announce loudly to my friend that, and I quote, "You look magnificent today, darling." And that was because, well, she did. And that level of magnificence deserved a pretentious British accent. The next day, she said the same thing to me, and soon it became a tradition to compliment each other before class. Of course, in time, I found my confidence. But to this day, I'm still not sure if the credit should be given to those silly compliments. Either way, I know that they became very important to me. As a result, I am now a self-proclaimed narcissist. Because here's the thing, right? I love receiving compliments. Now, I want you to think back to the last time someone paid you a genuine compliment. Think back to how pride and love filled your heart and you can't help but smile. I love that feeling. And I love it so much that I want to help other people experience that good feeling more often. Here's why. When I got to high school, I realized that self-deprecation became the norm instead of the exception. We've come to a point in time where we constantly get away with saying and believing that we were below other people. And this pattern of deprecation forms our mentality in how we treat ourselves and how we treat others. You see, my epiphany isn't just that compliments can help people. It's that we as a community lacked positivity and therefore lacked the aptitude for happiness. Yes, happiness, the ultimate life goal. People always seem to think that happiness is this sort of be-all, end-all destination in this ladder that we call life. But positive psychology researcher at the University of California, Riverside, Sonia Leung argues that 50% of happiness is determined by your genetics, while 10% is determined by your living circumstances and other factors. This still leaves 40% within our own grasp, determined by our attitude and outlook on life. So why is it that happiness ends up being the sort of checklist when there remains to be a more personalized aspect to it? To me, happiness means accepting the things that are out of your control and being grateful towards the things that you have. Note that my definition can be vastly different from yours, and that's okay. I'm not a happiness expert. But I do believe that this is a rather nice way to approach life. After all, there are so many places where your control has a limit. Your final semester GPA, the way you look in the mirror, the way other people perceive and judge you, and the list can go on. By accepting that your control has a limit, you therefore give yourself the power to go about focusing on improvement. So let's put this mentality into an example. Let's say that I'm horrendous at chemistry. I have a limited aptitude for the subject, and that is simply something that I cannot control, and that is something that I have to accept. By accepting this, I can therefore go about studying to the very best of my ability instead of putting myself down. Because there is a very stark contrast between I'm terrible at chemistry, full stop, and I'm terrible at chemistry, but I did the best I could, and that's enough. Here I become more positive, more forgiving. I focus on the positive, and that becomes my drive, which echoes this quote that I particularly like, which says, "Know your limits, but never stop trying to exceed them." This is what I like to call personal positivity. So how do we put personal positivity into a community? It shouldn't be a huge revelation when I tell you that you should be complimenting people. But it is hopefully a smaller revelation when I tell you that you should be doing it more often. I'm not telling you to sacrifice honesty for positivity. Don't be Regina George in Mean Girls, where she told a girl she liked her skirt, made the girl's day, turned around and said that was the ugliest skirt she's ever seen. Because yeah, talk is cheap, but genuineness is the biggest luxury that we can afford. Remember that every compliment goes towards building other people up. So if you like it, say it, but you have to mean it. Compliments don't just curate a psychological response. They also generate a physical reaction. Japanese researchers in 2008 discovered that receiving praise stimulates a part of the brain called the striatum, which is associated with reward and motivation, allowing for better skill and memory retention. Funnily enough, this same part of the brain is activated by monetary reward. So the good news is compliments come free of charge. So feeling happy can literally come at no cost. People also often forget that compliments are a two-way street. It's one thing to give a compliment. It's another thing to accept it. Most of the time when anyone receives a compliment, they always respond with a denial. For example, "Oh my gosh, you're so smart." "No, not really. You should see my psych grade." Like, 小姐，拜托. Someone took the time and the effort to pay you a compliment, and you're just gonna swat it away like that? Modesty is important, but can we all just agree that modesty is a little infuriating? If you don't accept the compliment, not only are you diminishing your own hard work, you are also showing ingratitude towards the other person and disregarding their values. There are some people who genuinely think that the compliments direct to them are not true. And if this is you, know that other people compliment you because they see something of value. So you should take their word for it and accept the compliment. Maybe use that to build some personal positivity. For those of you who think I'm just spitting out unicorn rainbows because I'm just a big ball of sunshine, fear not. I have something for you. Over the summer, I met someone who really challenged this perspective, and it really made me think. So over the summer, I did an internship, and my supervisor was really not one to compliment or comment on my work. Not that there's anything wrong with that, that's probably how adults operate. But to poor, naive little 16-year-old me, that was indicative that maybe I was doing something wrong. I told him this on my last day, to which he replied jokingly that it might have been a good thing. That a lack of compliments meant that I would never become content, and it would always keep me on my toes. To some extent, it was true, because I ended up working really hard so I could impress him. I guess it worked, because in the end, he did compliment me. And they meant a lot, knowing that he just didn't hand out compliments very easily. So here's some food for thought. It's a known phenomenon that the more we have of something, the less in value it becomes. Applying this to compliments, does the same still stand? The answer is yes, but not quite. While it is definitely more flattering to receive a compliment from someone who doesn't regularly do so as opposed to someone who does, both compliments from either end come from a place of genuine appreciation, and that in itself is valuable enough. A compliment is a compliment no matter who it comes from. I am only standing here today telling you that you should compliment more people because I believe that this community lacks positivity, which causes high stress and low levels of happiness and general well-being. Of course, positivity does not only stop at the extent of compliments. In the bigger picture, it advocates for the mentality of positivity, specifically positive thinking. This attitude of approaching a problem with a positive attitude was tested extensively by positive psychology researcher Barbara Fredrickson, in which her broaden and build theory argues that this positive thinking mentality broadens your sense of possibility and allows you to sustain the skills needed for success. Positive thinking is also linked to better stress management and increased overall health. SAS, to some extent, prides itself in being an academically rigorous school, which is why I believe it's so important that happiness and positivity find a place here. I run a club called the Happiness Project, which is my attempt at putting these values inside the school community. Working with the values of kindness, gratitude, and positivity, the Happiness Project strives to create an environment of joy and strives to decrease the stress that students feel in daily school life. It's an ongoing effort, hence the name project. Working inside the high school, we host a National Compliment Day. We have compliment cards on our club bulletin board that people can send out to others. At the end of each semester, we host a Treat Yourself Week, where we try to relieve the stress that comes with final exams. We were the people that put out the emoji beanbags and the hammocks, of which were so well received that all of the hammocks broke from overusage, and 2 of the beanbags went missing. Not that we mind necessarily, because the Happiness Project is here to serve the student community. Of course, trying to make the community more happy and more positive is no easy feat, and it's no one-man effort, because it takes an entire community to change a community. And while I do not hope to start a revolution here tonight, I hope that I can enlist you all in helping me with my vision. So if you would please put your hand over your heart, because if there is anything that you get from this speech, let it be this. Promise that you will be kind. Promise that you will help others and compliment others. Promise that you will give thanks for the things that you have. And promise that you will spend a little time every day into spreading positivity. So to ensure that we end this on a positive note, would anyone be so kind as to pay me a compliment? And with that being said, and with nothing but love, thank you.